Hi, this is Andy again at Concord Food Co-op Organic Gardens. We're here in the greenhouse, and today I'm going to talk about a few things that might be helpful to know about starting seeds, some tools that you might need, potting soil, all kinds of stuff. So I hope you enjoy. Before starting any seeds, I'd recommend putting together a seeding calendar so that you know what you're going to grow and when you're going to be starting it. Johnny's Seeds has a good resource on their website. You can go to Growers Library, go down to Planning Tools and Calculators, click that link, then scroll down the page until you find Seed Starting Date Calculator. Click on that, and it's going to ask you to enter your spring frost-free date. That's also sometimes referred to as your last frost date, and it's the date in the spring in which you can, on average, expect the last frost to occur. In the Concord area, it is somewhere around May 19th. Obviously, that's going to change from year to year, and it is getting earlier. Click enter and it will automatically adjust all these dates that you see down here. And just looking at one crop, let's pick basil. It has number of weeks to start seeds before setting out date. Sometimes that's also called weeks till transplant. And so essentially you're going to start these seeds 6 weeks before you want to put them outside. And it gives you the date of starting them on April 14th. Because the safe time to set out plants relative to frost-free date is 1 week after. Basil is a sensitive crop and doesn't want to be frosted. And so you can start planting it outside starting on 26th of May. And that's all just based around this date. So this is really easy to use and super convenient. Here's an example of what I use to organize my seeding schedule. This is more of a table than a calendar, but you can also print out a blank calendar and those work great. This is organized by the week, and so I do my seeding once a week, usually on Tuesday, and it has the variety listed, the crop, in case I forget, the type of flat that I'm going to seed it into, the number of flats that I'm going to seed, how many seeds per cell I'm putting in. You can see there's scallions. I put 6, which is a lot more than most, because I want to get one bunch out of each. And then the number of plants gives me an idea of how much field space it's going to take up and how many seeds I need to order. So I wanted to demonstrate some of the things that I use when I'm starting seeds here at the farm. We have a few different types of plastic trays. These are called plug trays, and they're a little sturdier and sort of self-supporting, although sometimes I like to support them with a tray anyway. But this one, they come in all different sizes. This is a 72. They're usually referred to by the number of cells that they have. So this is 6 by 12, 72, and this one actually happens to be a little bit deeper than usual. I like this one a lot because it really gives a lot of root space, and you can keep plants in these for a good amount of time before you put them out in the field. But you can see that you can get really tiny ones. So this is 288, and there's almost 300 cells in here, and they're pretty shallow. So you need to get things out of this tray pretty soon because they're going to fill up the space very quickly. But I use this to start onions and leeks and different things inside before I start up the greenhouse, and it's a really good use of space under grow lights. There's also inserts. These are tray inserts, and they're flimsier and they're floppy, and you sort of want a tray to support them with. So these are common greenhouse trays. All this greenhouse equipment is available online. It's pretty easy to find, and it's all standard sizes. It's called 1020, so it's 10 inches by 20 inches roughly. And so pretty much everything should fit inside everything else. This is, I think, a 30, and this is bigger. You might use this for cucumbers or summer squash or something, and it fits inside this tray like that, and then you can carry it around and it's supported. These here are a non-plastic alternative. These are made out of peat. The sustainability of the peat harvest is a bit dubious, but these are nice because, yeah, they're not plastic and they're biodegradable, and you can plant the whole pot right in the ground with the plant. I usually like to break it up first because I worry that the roots aren't able to grow through that peat quick enough. But they come in all different sizes. These bigger ones here are probably better for tomatoes or maybe peppers or eggplant, and these smaller ones are great for most crops. So this is the potting soil that I use here at the gardens. This is by Vermont Compost Company. This is their Fort V blend. I love it a lot. I know a lot of farmers that really swear by this mix. The thing that I like about it, it is primarily compost-based. It's something like 80% compost. This is a company out of Montpelier, Vermont, and they make a really excellent product. It is a little on the expensive side. It does also come in 20-quart bags, and it can be a little hard to find sometimes. I know that some agways sell it, and you'll have to shop around a little bit if you want to buy this particular type. I've also used Ideal Compost Company potting soil, and that is pretty good, and Coast of Maine is another decent option. Here's a close-up of the potting soil. You can see little bits of bark and plant residue, and it is, again, 80% compost, and it's also blended with some other things that the plants need to grow, blood meal and other products that add nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium. This is a well-balanced mix that actually provides all of the nutrients that your plant is going to need until the roots fill the container. So that's the best thing that I like about this. I don't need to worry about fertilizing my plants, and they grow beautiful and healthy and quickly. So I'm about to do my seeding for the week, and before I do so, I'm going to fill some trays with potting soil. I have an old wheelbarrow here with a flat tire that I've propped up as a planting tub, but you can use anything. You just want to make sure that it's bigger than the tray so that you're not spilling soil everywhere. I have a scoop here also to make filling a little bit easier, but you can also just use your hands. I'm taking the potting soil and I'm just adding a very liberal amount on the top, and then once I have more than I know I'm going to need, I just sort of level it out with my hands, making sure to get it into the corners well. It's a little easy to have those be underfilled. And just level it out with your hands until you are happy. One filled tray. The next thing I do once I have the tray loosely filled with soil is I take a tray of the same size and I put it on top and I line up all of the cells. And I'm pressing the soil down. This is allowing me to get more potting soil into each cell, and it's also going to give better root to soil contact once the seeds germinate. This is an important step. So this is what the tray looks like after we've pressed it down. The soil is about a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch below the top of the cell, and that's great. We're going to put the seed right on top of that and fill it with soil afterwards, and that's going to be the right depth for seeding pretty much every vegetable crop. I'm going to start my seeding today with some pak choi, and I just wanted to point out a number right here. It says germ 93%. That means that when this was tested for germination, it tested as 93% of the seeds actually germinated. And that's a pretty good number. I find that if it's less than 90%, I would consider actually seeding 2 seeds per cell so that I'm more likely to get a plant to come up in every cell. But 93%, I feel comfortable putting 1 seed in every cell. I never seed without my trusty spoon. I pour my seeds into my spoon, and I have this little sharpened popsicle stick that I made specifically for this. And you can just use it to carefully scoot the seeds off the spoon. I find this is the easiest way. You can also just do this with your fingers if you're only doing maybe 6 seeds or something like that, doing a 6-pack. But I like to use the spoon because I get good accuracy and I feel like I'm in control of the situation. So here's our tray that we packed the soil in, and then I put seeds in every single cell. And now I'm just taking some soil and I'm loosely covering the top. You really don't need to pack this down with your hands at all, because once we water it, the water will compress the soil just enough. So just loosely cover it with your hands and just level it off to be flush with the top of the tray, and that's all you need to do. Make sure to label your plants so you don't forget what they are. I include the variety name, Shanghai, and I know that that's pak choi, and then I include the date that I seeded it. So today's date, 3/31. So this is the tray that we just seeded. I moved it over here onto a heat mat. Seeds have an ideal temperature range to germinate, and for most seeds it's roughly 70-75 degrees. There's some exceptions to that. Lettuce likes to be a little cooler, onions like to be a little cooler, peppers and parsley like to be warmer. But 70-75 is usually a pretty good range. So I have this heat mat set up in the greenhouse because it gets cold in here at night and that temperature fluctuates so much. So the heat mat helps keep it around 65-70 for those seeds to germinate outside. So the heat mat is connected to a thermostat here. It's digital, and I can set the temperature that I want the soil to be kept at. Right now it's set for 75 degrees. So if anytime it is colder than 75 degrees, in this cell here, I actually have a temperature probe. This heat mat stays on and it warms it up until it reaches that point, and then it shuts off. That's really good for me to keep my germination consistent and to speed it up a little bit, especially because these are outside. So now that my seeds have been planted and covered, it's time to water them in. And you want to make sure that you have a nice fine rose on whatever nozzle you're using. The smaller the droplet size, the better, because the less likely you are to wash out your seeds and compact your soil. And you want to move really quickly. It takes time for water to penetrate into your soil, especially if it was dry, because they get hydrophobic. So you really need to give it some time to soak in that water. And you want to move quickly, not staying on any part of your tray for more than a second. It can sometimes be difficult to know when you need to water and also how much water to put down, and I'm still learning that. It's definitely an art form and I have not mastered it yet. Some problems with overwatering can be that you get algae growth, like on the top of this tray. You see how it looks extra green? That's all algae that's growing because it's been kept really wet. And also, if it's too dry, then you run the risk of your plant being stunted or even dying. So this tray kind of shows this diagonal line where some of the cells look darker in color and they're higher in moisture, and some of them look like they're starting to get dried out a little bit. However, they're only getting dried out at the very surface, so this is the point where I make an evaluation as to whether I think the tray needs more water. One of the things that you can do is go by that color and make a distinction off the color. You can also lift up the tray and feel the weight of it. I've been using these trays enough where I feel like this is probably heavy enough that it still has enough water for at least the morning. I might want to come through in the afternoon and add a little water. Out here in the greenhouse, I have to water more frequently when it's sunny because there's more evaporation, and less frequently or possibly not at all on a cloudy day. This is the setup that I use to start my seedlings inside. I start seeds inside when it is too cold outside and I don't want to fire up the greenhouse because it's expensive for all the propane. And also I'll use it to start certain things that require more consistent conditions throughout their germination, especially tomatoes and peppers and things like that. These plants are growing under a fluorescent light, which is providing 12 hours of sunlight, or artificial sunlight, for these plants per day. I have it set up on a timer so that it turns on at 7 and it turns off at 7, and that's the right amount of light to get good growth for seedlings. You want to position the lights pretty close to your plants. You can see this is about 8 inches up off of the tray. I also have a fan set up, and that provides some air circulation to keep it from getting too warm under the lights because they do produce a decent amount of heat. You'll need to check on your seedlings every day and water them, so it's important that you have a good setup so you're not making a mess of your kitchen or wherever you're doing this inside. Right here I have a very basic setup. This is just a lid from a big tub that was floating around, and I use it to keep the water from spilling out all over my kitchen. I have a watering can that I keep inside for watering my seedlings. This has a nice fine nozzle on it, and it puts out a consistent, slow, steady stream of water. I try to move quickly and water evenly so that I'm not flooding any one particular part. I move my hands extremely fast and do a quick pass. You want to do a nice quick pass and then do multiple passes to give it time to soak into the soil. When I'm finished watering, I move my tray into a leak-proof tray so the water that drips out of the bottom of this doesn't get all over my house. You can also start your seedlings in a sunny window. Just be aware that it needs to be south-facing, and even if it's south-facing and full sun, it's likely that your plants will still be just a little leggy or spindly. So that was a quick overview on how to plan your seeding calendar and also how to start your own seeds. Again, you can find my contact information at the Concord Food Co-op website and get in touch if you have any questions at all. Next time, we are going to be talking about growing and starting shoots and sprouts in your own home. Hope to see you there.
If you're in the mood for real food, it's Concord Food Co-op.